should also point out, I didn't recognize her at first. This is Jane Reserve. She used to be a CNN anchor. She used to be a CNN anchor. So now, it just goes to show you, like, for those who didn't recognize her because her hair, she wore her gray. I didn't recognize her. But she was a CNN anchor. This goes to show you for the history. He had the likes of like the AIDS Foundation and that's
So she's grabbed someone taking a paint job.
Scrubbed from YouTube, and now I believe you can only find it on Rumble. This video? Okay. You said this was before COVID? Because this just came out. Oh, this is the new one? Okay, so you've not seen the old one then? Oh, I saw it. I never saw the old one. Okay. No, but this is the new one. I can show you that because because they did the exact same thing before COVID, and it was basically this exact same thing. They laid out that it was coming. They had news people. They had the table of people talking about it. It's like basically the exact same thing. Yeah, I couldn't find the video. I showed you
they had news people. They had the table of people talking about it. That's basically the exact same thing.
I just didn't.
Yo. They had news people. They had the table of
Yo.
2022, and now 2022.
Yo.
It'll be the Sears infection. The Sears. They said that was an enterovirus. They said it was an enterovirus, which is it's a polio was an enterovirus.
And COVID was not?
Interesting. No, COVID wasn't corona.
Okay. That's a typo.
So, yeah, same people behind Event 201 that David was just talking about from a few years ago. Took place almost 3 years ago to the day, by the way. They completed their new one now, and they say this is going to originate in Brazil, 2025, and get ready. So, in addition to Bill Gates, the 10 current and former health ministers and senior public health officials from Senegal, Rwanda, Nigeria, Angola, Liberia, Singapore, India, Germany participated in this simulation. They have pre-recorded news broadcasts, as you saw, and they had the virus simulation, and they tested the rates of spread and how this would affect children and sweep across the globe, and how they would go into lockdowns and what they would do, and preparing, of course, for vaccines as well, making sure that those are lined up perfectly with this. See, this is the beauty of what these guys do, right? They know it's coming, so then they just develop the vaccines that they can sell to us, and they have it ready to go right there.
Yes, but you can see there's a clear narrative of naysayer guy, saying, well, these pandemics are political, we're not going to hand over power, absolutely not. And then the sort of cooler heads in the room prevail, like, no, we need a global response. We need centralized power. No, you unreasonable guy. They played him as a caricature.
Right.
And then they showed other people saying absolutely. And it's interesting that they have people who look like they're from African countries when the African Union has said, we do not want to participate in centralized power through the World Health Organization if there's a next pandemic. We absolutely will not be handing over power this way.
Yeah. Well, one thing that I said to African nations that stood up and actually voted that down. Go ahead, David.
Well, I was going to say, I was saying from the very, very beginning, and we were talking about it on the show, that if there was actually a global pandemic, then these companies would have got together with world leaders, and they would have created this vaccine and spread it to the world free of charge, because they are profitable enough, the government could have paid for it to do that. But when they made it so that they created basically 9 new billionaires, and it was so profitable for them, that shows you the true motivation, that it was nothing about a pandemic.
Right.
Yes,
and this is the same thing. It's like,
yeah. Mrs. Mom in the chat is saying, do you see that they're saying targeting kids? Because that was the piece that I feel like that was missing from COVID, is that we realized that it was not particularly terrible on children. And so this is what it's like trying to show us that would be different. Because disease, we might not all mobilize the same way we did the first time.
Right.
But if it's going to hit our kids, you don't just live with long COVID, you live brain dead. We can't.
That Philip's talking about, right?
Right.
That's-
Yeah, I was gonna say, I wonder if that's why they chose an enterovirus because they wanted to. It just wasn't scary enough. It's not scary unless it involves children.
Right, and then you
Maybe
make
that's why they
the
went.
polio vaccine, to your point earlier, as part of a routine, like,
Well, it is.
but now, polio is now part of your routine shot. So what I'm
Yeah.
saying is, whatever new thing that they create would become part of your new inoculation schedule for children.
Yes.
So this was 2007, they had a lockdown in place, we learned this week. Do some good digging here. We learned this morning, thanks to some good reporting by Will Jones, that the U.S. government had a plan in place for lockdown since 2007. To lock down and wait for a vaccine again. Since 2007. It's a pandemic plan produced by the National Infrastructure Advisory Council and was hosted on the CISA website. It lays out banning any large number of gatherings, definitely closing schools, non-essential businesses, institute work-from-home policies, and quarantine exposed and not sick individuals. Quarantine those people too. The aim is simple and clear: to slow the spread and wait for the vaccine. And here's a quote from the plan. During a pandemic, the goal will be to slow the virus's transmission. Delaying the spread of the virus will provide more time for vaccine development while reducing the stress on an already burdened healthcare system. So that was in place. That's been in place. Thanks to Will Jones for uncovering that. So there you go. That's get ready. 2025 Brazil, and mark your calendars now. Make sure you plan your vacations accordingly.
Okay.
Shit.
But
Thank you so much for watching this segment here at Redacted. We are live every day at 4 p.m. Eastern Time, trying to share the stories that the mainstream media will not cover. You should also come over and join our community of Redacted Rebels over at redacted.inc. That's our private locals community where we can share exclusive content that we simply cannot share here on YouTube. Come over and join the rebellion together right now by going to redacted.inc. We'll see you next time.
November 2004, off the coast of Southern California, the radar operators on the USS Princeton began to see objects coming essentially from space.
See him as he's crossing in front of me, it starts to accelerate, gets right on my nose, and disappears. This particular object was not following any of our rules. What is that? Like we're seeing something for the first time. We don't know if it's a threat. We don't even know what it is. We don't know what we don't know. Here's another thing. These unidentified flying phenomena or objects, I don't know what they are. We've established one thing, they exist. Our pilots have been seeing these things for decades. Their sightings go all the way back to the 40s, 50s, and 60s.
Unidentified aircraft south of the field.
There's lots of us been very passionate about this issue, and they just want people to take it seriously, as they should.
The military and the government basically decided on policy of shaming.
The witnesses were very afraid of being ridiculed.
They think you're a...
To tell you the truth, that's what they do to you.
We needed to remove the stigma.
Republicans are just as curious as Democrats when it comes to these matters.
It used to be that the burden of proof was on the true believer. They saw something to be proven. Now the burden of proof has shifted to the government. Now they have to prove that they don't come from perhaps another universe beyond ours.
It came from outer space to fill the world with terror, to bring you unforgettable suspense.
When you hear the term UFO, I think a lot of people think about little green men and Elvis on the mothership and tinfoil hats.
Where did it come from?
But in reality, what we're talking about are
encountered over controlled U.S. airspace, in some cases in very sensitive locations, performing in ways that, frankly, we can't understand.
Honestly, we have video footage of UAPs, unidentified aerial phenomena.
My God. I'll go back to the land of the hunter, find out the quest. They did.
More and more things that we can't identify. So we need to know what it is. That is necessary for national security.
So, what can I say?
Might this be the Russians, the Chinese government, or another hostile nation, a non-state actor? Are these aircraft otherworldly? Are these beings from another galaxy or universe? These are questions that have to be answered.
I think the best way to characterize it is we're vulnerable. It's a vulnerability, and that vulnerability could be exploited, could be massively exploited. So that has to be a national security concern.
Looking at this topic for the last 70 years as a country, we have substantiated reports of UAP activity from at least World War II.
We have received and analyzed between 1 and 2,000 reports that have come to us from all kinds of sources.
You're not taught this in history class, but we had a phenomenal series of UFO sightings directly over the nation's capital in July 1952 on 2 successive weekends.
The airport's interest in this problem has been due to our feeling of an obligation to identify anything in the air that may have the possibility of threat or menace to the United States.
The American people wanted answers. And unfortunately, the Air Force chose to obfuscate.
Continually charged the United States Air Force is withholding information from the general public. This is absolutely untrue. We are not hiding anything. We have nothing to hide.
So in the early 1970s, the government concluded its investigation into UFOs. As a result of that, there was this quiet period. This point where the U.S. government had washed its hands of the topic. And that occurred for several decades. Or at least that's what we were led to believe. In 2008, I was approached from a little small obscure office somewhere in the Pentagon. That office was called the Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program, ATIP. The individuals asked me if I would be part of an effort which quite literally looked at UFOs. ATIP was the deliberate and purposeful study of unidentified aerial vehicles that were being encountered in controlled U.S. airspace. People ask me, why do people listen? And as it was explained to me, it was because of my background. I'm a career counterintelligence special agent. Many of my assignments were overseas, initially in the Latin American hemisphere, and then later on, after September 11th, over in Afghanistan and the Middle East. I took an oath many years ago to defend this country from all enemies, foreign and domestic. And that's why I accepted the offer to join the Navy. I approached this job the same way I did every other job I ever had in intelligence. The exact same methodologies that we used to hunt terrorists, we were using to hunt UFOs. The sources of information that was collected was primarily through Department of Defense and military assets. Think of fighter aircraft and military eyewitnesses, and not engage the public. These pilots are not only trained observers, but they are some of the best aircraft pilots on the planet, operating some of the most sophisticated weapon systems on the planet. When they're telling you that they are encountering something that they cannot describe, that impacts our national security and our ability to respond to a perceived threat. And so when they are encountering these objects, we have to take their testimony seriously. Imagine something that had the ability to fly in space, underwater, and in our atmosphere at 13,000 miles an hour and change directions instantly. We fly the SR-71 at 3,200 miles an hour. If you wanted to take a right-hand turn, it would take you roughly half the state of Ohio to do it. And what we're seeing are objects that can do 90-degree turns instantly. And we're talking about speeds of 3,200 miles an hour. They've been caught at over 13,000. The question arises, how is that possible?
On the Armed Services Committee, one thing I did become aware of that I was very concerned about is that members of our armed forces have come forward over many years with reports of unidentified aerial phenomena that they actually captured. And instead of that information being well received, it's often been denigrated.
By and large, most of the data was not even filed or saved or reported. The information that was stored did not go to a central authority.
That's not acceptable. And if we don't know what it is, it's not an appropriate response to say, well, then let's not look at it, or let's not admit it's there. And so I wanted to look into this further.
So is that like an adrenaline junkie? Is that what you call yourself?
I don't say I'm an adrenaline junkie, but I like fast cars and flying jets are pretty cool. And I think it's the greatest job on the planet. My name is David Frager. I'm a retired Navy commander, superhornet pilot. I flew for 18 years for the United States Navy. July 1969, I was with my mom watching Neil Armstrong walk on the moon. And I was fascinated with space, and my mom said they were all former military pilots, and about from that point on, I had this goal that I was going to fly tactical aircraft somewhere in the United States military. I got some pilots that I worry about. Because, first thing, you don't want to lose anybody, and number two, the airplanes are pretty expensive, and it's tax dollars. In November of 2004, we were going to work with the USS Princeton, and we were flying, we're training our crew. As Alex was flying the other plane, the Princeton came up and said, hey sir, we're gonna hold on training today. So he said, hey, we have a rear wheel vector, and they turned us off to the west. It goes to, rear world, maybe we're gonna intercept some drug runners.
We were flying in a tactical combat spread formation. Two aircraft. Each aircraft had two air crew. As the radar hits on the USS Princeton scope start to march towards each other, they get so close that they can't differentiate them, and that's called a merge plot. And a merge plot is when you would expect to merge with this other aircraft. And if you're in a combat situation, that's obviously a very tense moment.
So when you do that, you start looking outside, so we're kind of doing this, looking around to see where it's at, because it's somewhere around you and you don't know. And I look down and I go, what is that? Close your eyes and imagine a long cylindrical white object with rounded ends, roughly 40 feet long, that looked like a giant Tic Tac. It was white, pure white. It had no windows, no wings, no visual signs of propulsion. And this thing was going like this, and I describe it as like if you put a ping pong ball and it was bouncing off the wall.
This particular object was not following any of our rules. It didn't have a turn radius that we would expect. It didn't have a period to accelerate and decelerate. It just seemed to zip so quickly that it was, again, really disorienting, really confusing for us. David said it was the WTF moment. We were definitely some WTFs on the radio.
Kind of scared me. I was like, what the is that?
Like we're seeing something for the first time.
Some people go, what is that? And they run, and then some people see it, what is that? And they're curious. They want to get closer and closer. They get closer and see what it was.
My lead, Commander David Frager, he's signed in, which means that he's engaging with this thing.
We get to about the 12 o'clock position, and this thing's still pointing north-south, the tic-tac goes and turns. It starts coming up. So now it's mirroring me. Whatever it was aware that we were there. I come up, I can see him as he's crossing in front of me. It starts to accelerate, gets right on my nose, and disappears. For something to come off the surface of the ocean like it was moving around, to be able to just accelerate to match my speed, and then to rapidly go away, we do not possess that technology.
Dave Frater was my commanding officer. Dave had his encounter. He comes back and lands on the carrier and goes, I'm a little weirded out. But when we were out there and we saw this object, I need you to go out to this sector of airspace and try to find it. He's been flying his entire career, over 20 years. When he says something like that, I take it seriously.
Decided if there's any way possible, if I can get this thing on video, I'm going to do it.
I think it's a testament to Chad Underwood and his pilot, their experience, their expertise, their technical acumen, that they were able to launch and find it and bring back clear footage.
You can see we just jumped to infrared. Target is now white against a black background. It's the same picture, it's just a different kind of polarity. I told my pilot, I'm like, hey, I'm going to go into every single field of view, Zoom, TV, and just try to bring back as much footage. So we pop the tapes in and take a look, and every single eyeball in the room was just like wide open, like, whoa. How do I describe this to someone who's going to be, you know, skeptical, and there was kind of that stigma of like, all right, you saw an alien. I didn't say I saw an alien. All I can tell you is I think I couldn't describe it.
There's a lot more videos there. What we've seen from gun camera footage is being validated and verified by eyewitness testimony, which is also being further substantiated by radar data. My intent was to have this information presented to the Secretary of Defense so he can make an informed decision. There are aspects of this phenomenon that definitely belong within the national security arena, especially if these objects were over controlled U.S. airspace. That's inherent government business. The boss needed to see the data. Unfortunately, that information was not permitted to get to him. On a regular routine basis, I was brought up to the Secretary's suite and I was briefing his direct reports. But they wouldn't bring it to his attention. And I suspect they were trying to save him from embarrassment, because if someone in the media said, were you ever briefed on UFOs, he'd have to say yes. And so, after several failed attempts to brief the Secretary of Defense, they chose to resign. Sometimes if you want to help the system, you have to leave the very system to do it. And that's what I chose to do. My resignation, it wasn't easy. It was probably the most difficult on my family. I'd given up a successful career, but it's kind of a code of ethic with us in government that if you can't fix a problem internally, then you leave, which is ultimately what I had to do.
My name is Leslie Kane, and I'm an investigative journalist, and I've been reporting on UFOs for about 21 years.
In the fall of 2017, I got a call from a source of mine, Chris Mellon, a former Undersecretary of Defense, who was very interested in UFOs, and he invited me to the secret meeting in Washington, D.C., and I eventually learned that the purpose was for me to meet the former head of an official program within the Department of Defense, which was studying UFOs, and had been doing so for 10 years. I met Lou Elizondo the day after he resigned from the secret program. So this was unbelievable to me. There was a program, and I was actually about to meet the person who headed up that program. It was a big deal. It was the biggest moment of my career as a journalist. These are original copies from the original negative of the, when I first started reporting on UFOs in 2000, I was working at a public radio station in Berkeley, California. And suddenly this colleague from France sent me a report in the mail
report, and I have the only exclusive English translation. What it was a 90-page study of official UFO cases put together by French military officials, generals and admiral, the chief of police. What really stunned me when I read it was their conclusion. What they said was that the extraterrestrial hypothesis was the most valid, rational, and logical explanation for the UFO cases that they studied. So I thought this was a huge story, and I thought to myself, what if the equivalent level of officials in America said something like that? Wouldn't that be front page news? Wouldn't that go all over the world? And then I pitched a story to the Boston Globe. In May of 2000, that story came out. The response was huge within the UFO world. But what I was surprised about was that there wasn't a response outside of the people who already cared about this topic. And so my goal in writing about UFOs has been mainly to bring information forward to the public. But beyond that, it's to motivate our government to pay attention.
I commend the media for tackling this because they're putting a lot at risk as well. That's how we have a comprehensive conversation with the American people.
I did not walk away from that meeting with Lou Elizondo carrying anything with me. I was shown 3 videos of UFOs, and these were official Department of Defense videos that were, without question, unexplained objects.
She ran through the videos and she asked me, are these authentic? And I said, I can tell you that the videos are authentic. And the only reason why I've been telling you this is because they're unclassified. I've facilitated the review process for that through the Department of Defense.
2 of them had audio tapes of the pilots exclaiming about what they were seeing and their shock and their awe and everything else. This was just absolutely stunning to me because there have been no official videos of UFOs released, I don't think ever, but certainly not since way back in the 50s or 60s. And they were official. That's the thing. They were just somebody out with a cell phone taking a video.
Hear the pilot's reaction to these encounters. It's very compelling. They're obviously startled. They're obviously encountering something that they can't explain. And we need to figure out what we collectively are going to do about it. And that's why I resigned from the Department of Defense.
This is Elizondo's letter of resignation that he wrote for the Secretary of Defense. I think that might have just not been else. Anything else. He explains why he was resigned. And it had to do with his understanding that UFOs were a national security concern. To see that written down and the courage that it took for him to do that was just incredible.
In order to understand why I resigned, I think you have to go back to where I came from. I come from, on my father's side, Cuban immigrants. That's meaningful for me because this country offered my family opportunities that nobody else would. And so from a very young age, I've always wanted to serve the country that gave my family so much. You know, ironically, I left the Department of Defense out of loyalty, not just loyalty. I left the Department of Defense to finish the very mission they gave me in the first place.
After reporting all these years on UFOs, there was nothing that came close to the power of that particular meeting. Once I realized this was a big story, I teamed up with my colleague Ralph Blumenthal, who was a freelance reporter for the New York Times, and he pitched it to the head editor. I had never reported for the New York Times before, so I didn't know what would happen. But that's where I felt this story should go. The public has a right to know extraordinary phenomenon.
Sometime in the fall of 2017, my boss, as the Washington bureau chief, walked up to my desk and said, "Do you want to write about UFOs?" And we both sort of laughed, and she said, "Leslie King had information about a secret Pentagon program." And that was easily, to me, fascinating. There's no way I don't want to write about it.
For deployment. Enemies are dropping into the area. Watch the skies. All stations, we are green to go. Stand by for deployment.
I haven't been on in a minute.
Holiday rush. Capture trees and throw snowballs while eliminating your opponents. Bounty targets marked. Kill them all. Enemy counter UAV inbound. We've got 10 squads active in the field.
Got movement.
Enemy UAV overhead. online. Primary objective complete. All targets eliminated. All squad mates are in the safe zone. Gas is inbound. Taking effective fire! Enemy soldier incoming. Enemy movement! Marking enemy! You've got a loadout drop inbound.
Mark the target.
Got myself up! You have reinforcements inbound.
Took a round!
Hostile UAV in the area. Squad mates MIA. We're reducing redeployment time. It's all on you. Stay alive so your squad can redeploy. Target down. Marking the rest of them. Enemy UAV is online. Get to the safe zone. Gas is moving. Enemy dropping into the AO. Marking enemy. I'm hit! Enemy movement. Cancel that. Marking enemy. An enemy squad is hunting you. Stay sharp. Your squad mate's back on station. Good work. You're back on station. Go get after it.
Deer hunt. Help me find my reindeer.
I got you. 25 remain. We lost that one.
Damn, man, you could have highlighted them. Been goddamn trying to tell me they was right there.
Ready. Resurgence window is about to close.
Y la chamba, cosa, todo bien, todo correcto.
The real thing is coming soon. Enemy soldier incoming. Playtime's over. Stand by for deployment to the war zone.
Alright, boys. Which one of y'all has the most experience? Oh, I gotta change my calling card and everything.
Holiday rush resurgence.
Let's land on the far Christmas tree, the one way over there.
While eliminating your
Sorry.
opponents. Mark a drop point for your squad and hit the
Yep.
We've got 10 squads active in the
I'm just
field.
trying to get some time in, figure out how to play this shit.
Enemy movement. Cancel that. Marking enemy. Taking effective fire.
Sorry, I had to sell.
Your squad mate is redeployed. Well done.
NDVR ready for launch.
Enemy UAV overhead.
From above us, from above us.
Deployed.
My sentry gun ain't shooting.
Time for vengeance. You're redeploying.
NDVR ready for launch.
Your squad made it to the safe zone. You've got gas moving in.
You've been good. Marking sniper system.
Enemies are dropping into the area. Watch the skies.
Got movement. 16 rounds. Out.
UAV standing by.
1-1 requesting recon at this time. Target grid empty. Negative BDA. Got a weapon here.
Thanks for the work. UAV overflight terminated.
Missile launched the designated target. Negative effect. Missile strike failed to hit designated threat. Field upgrade here.
Friendly loadout drops on the way. Enemy counter UAV inbound. Hostile UAV in the area.
Enemy movement. I'm hit!
You have reinforcements inbound. Your objective simple. Eliminate all bounty targets. Enemy UAV overhead. All bounty targets are KIA. Well done. Your squad mates back on station. Good work. Gas is closing in. We're returning you to the front. Earn this. Enemy UAV is online. Hostile UAV in the area. Enemy UAV is online. Enemy UAV overhead. Your squad mate is redeploying. Well done. Enemy dropping into the AO.
Deer hunt. My reindeer have been naughty. Hunt them down.
To the ground! Resurgence is about to end. Make it count. Enemy soldier incoming. Confirmed. We've located the rest of them. I'm hit! Hostiles have established a SAM turret. Ground, moving.
Located lethals. Disregard.
Moving here. Get ready. You're redeploying. Your squad mates back on station. Good work. Be advised, resurgence is no longer active. This is the thing. You're getting another chance. Weapons free.
Is FMJ that crazy?
Gas is inbound.
That was close.
Taking effective fire! Enemy SAM turret active. 5 squads still operational in the AO. Less than 25 were still standing. They hit the pass that time. Just didn't help off, regroup, and kill. Enemies are dropping into the area. Watch the skies. All stations, green light. We're deploying to the war zone. Holiday rush. Capture trees and throw snowballs while eliminating your opponents. Your team leader. Set a drop point for your squad soldier.
You've been good. Spreading holiday cheer.
They've got a SAM turret online.
Ho, ho, ho.
Got movement.
Enemy counter UAV inbound. Hostiles have established a SAM turret. Hostile UAV in the area. Enemy UAV overhead. They've got a SAM turret online. Enemy counter UAV inbound. Enemy UAV is online. You have reinforcements inbound. Hostile UAV in the area. Enemy counter UAV inbound.